Hello, wonderful. This is Sarah. And have you ever had a toxic relationship with food or eating or obsessing over food or thinking about food all the time when it's inappropriate? And I have my friend Leslie Chen here. And we have been friends, I don't know, 2 years, 3, 4, 5. How long have you
Ever
been?
since 2018.
2008. Oh my gosh.
Well, April 2018 to be exact.
April 2018. So we were meant to meet and have, had babies and conversations, written books and grown businesses and everything else. So, and then have matching outfits on today.
Hi, Sarah.
Okay, Leslie, you will tell me a little bit about what you do. And then you said something really interesting about eating that I want to bring to our audience. But tell people what you do.
I help women, mostly women and men too, get rid of the food addiction, heal their relationship with food while losing weight sustainably without any diets or even exercising.
And in this whole thing with problem solved and decision made, I saw that with Cornell University, we make 219 decisions about food a day.
That's crazy. You wouldn't think so, right? You would think that all I'm thinking about is what I should eat. I'm done. I'm over it. But you actually, one thing that I want to bring up is after talking to hundreds and thousands of women, what is the average amount of time, hours, in terms of hours people spend on thinking about food on a daily basis? Average 4 hours. I'm not talking about everyone. I'm talking about those who are trying to lose weight and who have this food issue, and they cannot just put their eating together. And they spend so much time thinking about food and think about 4 hours a day on average. How many hours during the week and how many hours during a month and a year? And they have been doing it for sometimes decades.
No, I believe you. Well, yeah. And I know with my clients, they come to me and it's like they get promotions and raises and that kind of thing, because it's like, okay, let's take that 4 hours you were thinking about your ex and let's think about a promotion, think about this. And as I'm hearing you speak, it's like, man, 4 hours a day?
Not just thinking, researching online, making meal plans, counting calories, researching on macro, right? And just thinking empty thoughts about weight loss, about food, about why they have this. Sometimes they think they have the genetics that is making them, fat, which is another big conversation, right? But this is so much. It's not just about food. It's everything related to food. And sometimes it's about, when I go to dinner with my boyfriend tonight, what should I be ordering? Something that's very low calorie, but he wants to eat steak. Then what I do, right? How many hours do I fast after that? Yada, yada, yada. So it's never ending.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no, I get it. And you said that there was something different about the way Americans viewed weight loss. And I'm so curious.
I'm from China, right?
Mm-hmm, I do.
All right. So probably I need to go backward a little bit and tell people more about my background. I came to the United States, 120 pounds, 5'8", back in 2005. And I came here for college. First 3 months, gained 30 pounds. I tried to lose all the 30 pounds through the diets, ketogenics, right? Atkins at that time, South Beach diet, everything that was trendy. And that got me to 50 pounds of weight gain. So it was a whole year of roller coaster, all right? Going up, down, yo-yo dieting, not losing any weight, gained 20 pounds. I went back to China that summer. It was unexpected, but in the first month, I did not do anything. And I ate the carbs that I was forbidden to eat, and I lost 14 pounds. Then that's how I started wondering, wow, what is the variance? What is the big difference between this, entire philosophy of just eating whatever you want and this entire philosophy of dieting? And that's where the observation came from. Now, I came back to the United States 2 months later after my summer break. And I started just let my Chinese, not really Chinese, but more of the natural Taoist way of living and eating continue. And over the next 10 months, I lost almost all 50 pounds. It was 48 pounds to be exact. And I wasn't even weighing myself on a weekly basis and just had this pounds just come off. And my food addiction problem, which I developed when I was doing diets after diets, just dissipated throughout the way when I was not looking at weight loss. So that was a little background. So yeah, Sarah, you brought up the major difference between American and not just Chinese, but the entire Asian way of thinking when it comes to food, right? So one thing that really struck me was when I first wanted to lose weight, I Googled, how do I lose weight? And something popped up, carbohydrates. And I was really shocked. I was like, oh my God, this one starch thing, this carb thing is making me fat. But hey, how is it the case that I was able to keep fit in China for almost 20 years while eating loads of carbs on a daily basis? Because for not just Chinese, but also for people from Japan, Vietnam, Korea, and even Italy, right? The carbohydrates are kind of like the staple food. You have it multiple times a day. We never heard such thing like carbs made us fat until I Googled that night in America. And I saw that. I tried it, I'm talking about ketogenics, lost 20 pounds in the first month, but slowly regained everything, right? So this is one of the biggest striking discrepancy that I've encountered when I started my weight loss journey in America. How can you blame food for everything? I'm not just talking about the carbohydrates thing, because later on we were talking about all different types of things like sugar, fruits even, right? And what else? Meat. People blame meat. They have cabbage soup for 20 days, right? They do lose weight, but then, it's lifelong trauma then. So yes, so that's one of the things that really kind of caught me off guard when I first started, my weight loss journey in America.
Well, you did a video recently and you talked about intuition and basically like you don't think about your feet going in front of each other. You don't think about breathing. You don't think about, picking up a cup of coffee, you just automatically do it. And you talked about food and eating in that way.
Yeah. That analogy, I had to think hard for it. When I first had to think about this analogy when I was years ago, when I was teaching my students, I was telling them that it's such a natural thing that you choose to eat the right thing at the right amount. And they didn't believe it. And they were like, I have tried to count for decades. I never heard of such a thing that I can actually automatically do it. Well, you're not automatically doing it because you have blocked your senses, your intuition, your instincts, right? When you unconsciously replace them through rules, numbers, when you're counting and following those restrictions, right? So yes, think about the last time. When was the last time you had to count minutes or seconds when you're inhaling, exhaling to make sure that you're not over-breathing in oxygen and over-breathing out whatever, right? And when was the last time you had to, when you were walking, you had to make sure that the distance between two of your feet were actually exactly right in terms of centimeters or inches to make sure that the one foot was not stepping on the other. It's built-in instincts. And you guys don't realize that it's built-in instincts. The same thing when we're eating, because our body, our brain, our neurological system is taking that job. And if you're a corporate manager, because I coach a lot of corporate managers and entrepreneurs, just think about the scenario. You lead the entire department, right? And you have, which is made up of different teams. You have different team leads for each team. And the team lead has the right capability, the talent, and also the work ethics to handle everything in that team. What do? You let him run his team, right? You don't doubt him all the time. You do not just go into interference and say that you're not doing it well enough, or let me handle it for you. Because what do? By doing that, you are breaking, you're destroying the order. You're destroying the order. You are destroying the work culture. Basically, the enterprise that you built is just going to deteriorate from there because people don't want to work with you, right? It's the same thing, same exact thing we're doing when we're trying to do, like taking on too much and do our body's job. And there's one thing that I hope everybody can remember and actually write it down. Okay, when I'm talking about it, just write down here. It's not your job to lose weight and keep fit. It's your body's job. And your only job is to let it do its job, right? Is to not step in, be lazier, not micromanage, and just trust. That's it.
This is so interesting. You know, you and I have been friends for a long time, and this is just so interesting because it's exactly the language I use when people get on the phone with me and they say, "Can I have a list of red flags?" And I'm like, there is zero chance I can give, anybody can create a list that anytime, these are all the ways someone would manipulate you or try to trick you, or you have to listen to your intuition. You have to, your nervous system, if you're in the woods, I know you went camping recently, Leslie. So say you're in the woods and like you hear a rustle, right? So there's like a bear, and your nervous system reacts and says something's wrong, right? That's your body keeping you safe. That's your body doing its job.
That's your body's job. Exactly.
Right. I tell people this all the time. I was like, if there's a toxic person, you will notice. You'll be more confused. It's just about listening to those signals and not ignoring them, which sounds exactly like what you're talking about.
This is exactly what I'm talking about. And while people write to you or talk to you, give me a number of red flags, they come to me, give me a number of triggers. It's not a matter of triggers. It's a matter of if you are trusting and allowing the system that you already have to work for you. And they always disregard the systems which you already have. And let me tell you this, Sarah, if you have a body, now, well, this is a separate topic, but this is related. If you have a body which you cannot listen to and which is also working against you, and when I'm saying working against you, I'm talking about a retaining fat, right? Not burning calorie efficiently, and sending you those hormonal triggers that makes you overeat once and once again. If you have a body that is working against you, if you don't allow your system to work for you, you can do 100 different diets and fail 100 times. Eventually you become a PhD in calorie counting. You don't know how to live. It's just like somebody trying to walk with a crutch and he doesn't believe his own muscle is going to work for him. He doesn't believe his own nervous system is going to work for him. He just hold on to the crutch because the crutch makes him believe that I'm going to take every step right. But the problem is that, hey, throughout time, you lose the ability to walk independently. That's exactly what we have been doing with this calorie counting, the dieting, and also macro counting thing. You have thousands of techniques, right? But the techniques are not solutions. Your only solution lies in here, your body. And when you take my word for it, earlier I just said that if you have a body that is not working for you, or you don't allow him to work for you, you can do 1,000 diets, but fail 1,000 times. But if you have a body that works for you, it's just going to be like in the corporate, you're going to have a fully optimized team with a fully capable team lead working for you. Weight loss, you just sit back. It's a cruise. It's a cruise. Like I can show you, I can't tell you how many times when my clients are so like strikingly like surprised about the difference, because they have been in this place where they have to diet for decades and meticulously counting and watching their eating and not having the results. And all of a sudden, after 3 or 4 weeks, I don't encourage them to weigh themselves to begin with, right? So what they do is that they weigh themselves someday randomly, and they didn't feel good about it because they know that they haven't been dieting. They have been dieting, right? They haven't been dieting. So they get onto, sorry, this is something is in my phone is, okay.
That's okay.
Yeah, so all of a sudden they step on the phone. They're just as shocked and surprised as I was when I was losing 14 pounds in that first month in China. They realized that, oh my God, I did not do anything. 4 weeks later, I'm 10, 15 pounds off. But the thing is that you did do something very important, which is allowing with balance, with grace, with elegance, to make sure that the body is now taking its role and the instincts are fully activated again. So that's why I'm saying that real sustainable weight loss is always a cruise. But however, if you're trying to get to the goal of losing like 30, 40, 50 pounds through a very difficult journey, whatever diets you're doing, whatever, maybe it's the workouts, right? It's not going to be easier to maintain it. All right. Because from the beginning to the end, you're not giving room for your body to do what it's supposed to do. So you have to be the micromanaging manager or business leader to just watch everything, mechanically shift everything, control everything. And that drives you crazy.
Well, and I'm thinking about high performers, and
right.
I see a lot of high performers that they get used to things having to be a lot of work, or they get used to things having to be hard, or they get used to having to have that control to right? Is that kind of what you're seeing?
That's exactly what make you stuck there.
Yeah.
Because think about it. Okay, from the beginning of our conversation, I said this is an instinct thing. All right. And not realizing that this is an instinct thing. I'll have to say it's number one biggest blocker that is making you stuck here. I'm pretty sure it's the same with the relationship thing. It's very similar. Now, in terms of food addiction or weight loss, your body knows how to balance energy. And your basic instinct in this world is to keep yourself alive and fit and healthy. All right. So it's instinct. That means that it's actually done automatically for you. Right. And what is the consequence of disregarding that instinct is that you're going to have to do everything to try to match up with the instinct, which you can never do. Eventually, you're going to get a lot of frustration. You're going to be totally exhausted just because you completely overly complicated it.
Well, that's what I say about relationships for sure, especially early in dating. And I'm like, whoa, it's supposed to be easy. If it's early in the relationship and you're already like, I can't figure out why they're doing this or what happened in their childhood about this, or well, like that's, things are not going well.
Yeah.
But I say it louder for the people in the back. Like I want to say very distinctly, because as I'm hearing you talk, there's person after person that's coming to mind. Right. And it's like they are so used to working hard for results that they're making, whether it be relationships or eating or, we cannot outsmart our nervous system. Like our nervous system is smarter than we are.
And if you think about it, it's a different game. The weight loss, I understand a lot of business leaders and a lot of entrepreneurs, they have this type A personality, highly ambitious, right? And very goal-oriented and very hardworking. But it's actually a totally different game. And if I may say, it's the opposite game that you're playing when you're doing weight loss or freeing yourself from the food addiction. Think about it in business world, what you need to do. You need to be highly analytical, right? Highly critical thinker. You have to have your creative ideas so that you can create something, create order from chaos. You have to be a good executor as well, making plans, making policies, making rules, and implementing everything, and basically on top of everything. But that's your body's job. That's your body's job. Right. We are in health, holistic health you have to understand, it's your basic right. It's your basic instinct. And in this game, you don't need to do any of that. Mm-hmm. All you need to do is to sit back. It's a challenge to a lot of, let's say, high achievers, because they are used to do stuff. They want to see results. They want to see different metrics being met, right? So that's why dieting has its value. It does have this value to these people because it gives you the emotional gratuity reward, showing that you are doing things, checking off boxes, and also following rules. So as if, there's a system, as long as you follow it, you're going to do it. Now, another concept I want to give you here and your audience here, which is also very important, is that a dieter and a healthy person, these are completely two different species. Two completely different species when it comes to what you think, how you make decisions, what is your emotional state of being, and how you live your life, how you live and experience your life, and how you choose your relationships. Completely two different species. Even though when you're dieting successfully for a moment, you might be as skinny as the holistically healthy person, but you are not that person. So even before you start this journey of dieting or choosing a regimen to follow, you have to think about where it's leading to. Because if your ultimate goal is to go north, which is to become free and confident and healthy, but eventually this journey, by giving you certain appearances of the north, actually leading you to the south, you're creating double, triple, quadruple distances between you and the person you want to be. I'm pretty sure this is the same with relationship, because when persons start a relationship, right, I'm pretty sure you teach them to make the right decisions.
Yeah. And again, it's so instinctive, right? And that's what I'm saying. Like, okay, I said on my Q&A yesterday, go back and think about all the times that your instincts picked up on something and you were right. Like, I want everyone to be making lists like, oh, I thought something was off about that, and it turned out to be true. Hey, you know, and it's so interesting. You know, you and I have never had this type of conversation about this. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's the exact same thing. Look,
it's exactly the same thing. You deal with people, you help people improve their relationship with people, but it's the essence of that is dealing with your relationship with you. Right? On the surface level, it's about how do you create a good relationship with others, but on a deeper level, it's actually your relationship with you. And it's the same thing that I'm doing. And there's another thing about instincts, that because some people came to me asking, okay, if this instinct, can I just stop doing any thinking about weight loss and just let it flow and let it cruise, and it will just automatically be normalized or corrected? That some people might, but to a lot of us who have been dieting and addicted to food for a long time, a long period, years and decades, I'm talking about, a lot of your natural senses have been skewed. It's just like for your people, when they're looking at somebody, new relationship, their natural instinct might have been blinded because of their previous experience. In our world, in sustainable weight loss and food, relationship with food, it's the same thing that's happening. Because I'll give you an example. Your satisfaction cues can be delayed, right? Your hormones can be now generating triggers more than it should to make you think about food or crave food. That's actually one of the biggest reasons why people are, struggling with food addiction. It's not because that they don't have enough willpower. It's because their body is now primed to generate excessive triggers that lead them there, right? So, and that's just two small examples I can give you. It's just like, yes, you have to trust your instincts. But now, before you start trusting your instincts, you have to make sure that inwardly, those things have been reset. Okay. So that's also why I'm saying that so many people spend time and money and energy on doing external things like diets, food, but at the end of the day, counting calories, exercising. But at the end of the day, none of these are going to help you resurrect how you function internally. And how you function internally and how you think here in your brain, your psychology towards food and your world is a psychology towards relationships. That's the main thing that is going to make you, in your world, which is toxic person proof, in my world is immune towards the triggers, immune towards the hunger or the psychological hunger, I call it, and the temptations and everything that now makes you addicted. So that's the major difference.
And I go back to the 4 hours a day and the 219 decisions about food a day, and I just think, what a prison. I mean, what a prison, because I think we think about, losing weight, fitting in a smaller pair of jeans, whatever. Right. But when you think about like the stress relief, people struggling with burnout, it's like, well, you think maybe if there were, out of the 4 hours a day you were thinking about food, let's just take it down to 2 hours. You have 2 hours of thought back a day.
It's running you. Your thought is running you, and people don't realize it. They don't realize the thing that it's actually a programming. It's a hardwired programming, which you started when you first started taking on a diet. And one of one of my favorite speaker and also influencers, Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he was making one analogy, one example one day in his webinar, saying that, every morning you get up from your bed, right? You go to the bathroom, you do your business, you brush your teeth, and you probably come out and make a cup of coffee. And all of these things you're doing without your brain having to think about it. Why? Because it's programming. And we have to realize at the end of the day, it's your programming that determines to a large extent what kind of experience you're going to have in this life. Because you ever heard of people saying that we are the result of our habits, right? Habits. What is habit? It's programming. And the good thing about programming is that it can be reset. It can be reset. Okay. Now, food thing is the same. Okay. If you have been having this programming of, emptying every plate, right? And you get.
So my daughter, I'll have to tell you a funny story about this. I do not say empty every plate. Like when she says she's finished eating, she says, I'm not hungry anymore. And I say, okay, always stop when you're full. Like that's
Drop it.
Right. Like that's my philosophy.
Yeah.
And our next door neighbor came over, and is a little boy, and he's like 2 or 3. I can't remember how old he was at the time. And he said, I'm ready to get up. And she said, you can't get up until you finish your food on your plate. And I went,
oh, whoa.
I said, what made you say that? I've never said that to you. What made you say that? And I'm sure she's picked it up from another family member. I don't know who she picked it up from.
Probably a tradition. It's probably a family tradition. Yeah.
Yes, but it was just so interesting. And I thought about that programming. I said, when you have kids, you can choose to do what you want. But I have very purposely trying to teach you good skills in this.
Right.
He just wanted to play. He wasn't finished eating. And I was like, well, his body decides when he's finished eating. Your body doesn't decide when someone else is finished eating.
Exactly. Now, if you think about it, if we analyze it a little bit, right? What is triggering that? I mean, when I was growing up in China, I heard that from my grandma. You can't waste food because the world, we have limited food resources, which is also true, right? So you cannot waste food. But a lot of time, this kind of what I call the scarcity mindset, think about where it's going to lead you. So today, when you're facing a plate of food and you think about scarcity, and you're going to have to feel like there's no choice other than finishing it. Going forward, when you're faced with a job that you don't like or a relationship you don't like, you're kind of going to have the same ideology, right? And without realizing it, because that's going to be your default programming. I'm not saying that it's going to be absolutely the case. It still varies from, experiences to experience, and people from people. But hey, if you're keeping saying that to a young boy 5 times a day that you have to empty your plate for like how many years, that's going to be the default programming.
Yeah, no, it's so important. And, and leading our kids by example. I know you and I both talked about that. Especially those of us with daughters, with all the social media and body image issues and stuff.
Yeah.
It's just, it's always been hard on women. It is statistically much harder on young women.
People ask me, should I lose weight? They ask me thinking that I will give them the answer, because they think that I have the expertise to decide if they are overweight or not. Then my simple question to them is, are you feeling okay? Are you feeling that, first of all, your body is becoming a burden, right? It's causing you emotional and physical burden when you're walking around. Are there activities you cannot do because of the body? Or is that making you a center of attention when you walk somewhere? All right. Or is it stopping you from doing what you need to do or what you have set as a purpose in this life? Because if you feel any of that, it is a problem. You have to fix it. And guess what? The step 1 of fixing a problem is to recognize and acknowledge this is a problem, right? And this is not something that is compliant with what we now have as trend, which is the huge body positivity things that you accept your body and do not fall for the need to lose weight. Do not fall for the need to, hey, if you are 300 pounds, you're not going to live that long. And if you love this world, you have to correct it, right? So again, I'm probably seeing this issue from an Asian perspective, Asian eye. But hey, in Asia, if we have a problem, we fix it, right? If we have something we have to do, we just get it done. So that's kind of mentality. And I think people in this world nowadays has been a little bit, I don't want to use the word spoiled, but probably misled. Even when you go into the stores, like I was shopping with my two of my family members on the other day, and I walked into H&M. They have been living in this country for a long time, but they haven't shopped in H&M for a long time, right? And they used to be M-sized, and now they're S-sized. See, the entire world here is kind of encouraging us to become bigger and bigger and bigger, and I just don't think it's healthy.
Well, doctors don't think it's healthy, right? I mean, when you look at cholesterol numbers or something like that, like there's science, like, smoking is bad for you. We may I have a family member who smokes, and, it's like, well, I don't want to make her feel bad for smoking, but lung cancer exists. Like, it's not about me making her feel bad for smoking. Like, lung cancer is real.
It is real. And that reminds me of the time when I first gained those 50 pounds. I was super frustrated. So I would just complain to some people, and they'll be all like, what? You have gained that much weight? We're not seeing it. I'm not seeing it. You're not fat. Even though I was feeling really bad, but they kind of wanted to make me feel good by discrediting that fact, right? So that was an experience. Again, in China, if you've been in China before for like living there, experienced the culture, you would know that if you have gained 10 pounds, people were like, hey, you gained weight, you should watch out your diet. They just put it out in front of you. You don't necessarily feel bad about it, right? But here, when people discredit and disregard the fact that you have gained weight and try to make it, non-issue out of it, it doesn't make me feel good, because I know like, hey, why am I the only person looking at and seeing it as a problem, but nobody is agreeing? So you kind of get this sense of isolation from it, which is also so rampant. Yeah.
I think in the US I hate to say this, I know we have listeners from all over the world, it's not just the US, but it's almost like, hey, I'm a little bit happy that you're not doing as well as you could be, because it makes me feel better that you gained a little weight. Like, so I want you to keep gaining weight and keep spending more money than you have and keep failing in relationships. It's not a nice thing, right? It's not a nice thing. And I've kind of seen it more and more. And I think it's part of our culture of like, oh, it's fine that you skipped a workout today. It's fine that you went over on your credit cards. It's fine that you, whatever it is, right? And it's just culture of like,
it's worldwide.
Yeah.
Over there, it's like, hey, I'm pointing out your flaws, so that makes me feel good.
Yes. Well, yeah, I know. I don't think it's any better in the UK, particularly. It is worldwide, but it is a problem that can be solved. So Leslie, I know you've got a webinar, you've got information for people that we'll put in the show notes. Can you tell people where they can find out more about you and your work?
Sure. Go to my website at www.riceling.com, and Riceling spelled as RISELEAN. And you're going to see many things there. I've written some content there, really good content. And also I have some good webinars there. There are 2 webinars you might want to check out. If your main priority is to get rid of food addiction, go to the webinar called the 5 Winning Keys to Eliminate Food Addiction While Gaining a Head-Turning Body. Well, main goal is just to get fit sustainably without worrying about food at all. Then go to the webinar that calls 5 Keys to a Head-Turning Body. So these are 2 most valuable resources. You can find my website. Also, you can find me on TikTok at riceling.com. So yeah, these are 2 places I'm hanging out at.
Awesome. And you guys, I will put all that in the show notes. You can see why Leslie and I have had interesting conversations for half a decade now. We've been in this business and grown it together. So thank you for finally coming on the podcast with all our weekly conversations. Now you're finally, I'm introducing you to the world.
I absolutely enjoyed it, Sarah. Absolutely do.
We'll have to come back again. So
definitely do.
So much.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.